Alright, so we're back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and I know it's been a while since I made a video, or at least it's not going to be as consistent, but just to give you a heads up, that's just kind of how it's going to be for the next month or so, just as FYI. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below, what other rulings we should know, or anything else, other decks, archetypes, whatever you want to see. Definitely let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new. I appreciate everyone who has been subscribing, got me to 5,000. Share the video, etc., etc. But today we're going to go through some of these new rulings and a couple kind of old ones like reiterations and things like that. There is one that I wanted to reiterate, which I didn't include, which is the Babidi. Yes, you can have the one-drop Babidi on board and then play any of the agents ones that has agents in its name or meets the requirement, and it reduces the cost and as well as the specified cost as well. I mean, it's just so simple. But just to give you a reminder, but these are all going into set 11 and things that you should know. Starting out with the new super combos and the multi-cards. So if you're playing multicolored cards, as in, let's say you're playing red-blue, right? This one says if you have a multicolored card with red energy, can this card's auto skill activate? And yes, it does. And the reason for that is if you're playing red and blue, if you have red, blue, red, blue in your energy, you can still meet the requirements because this card says if your leader card is red and your life is 4 or less, and all of your energy is red, and this is used in the combo, it gains 10k power, you bottom deck 1, you draw 2. This applies to pretty much everything as long as all of your energy is red, or X or Y basically. So if you have all black energy, which should be the easiest one to meet the criteria for this one, or if you have all blue energy and you still have a multicolored card that has red or blue in it and all the rest of your color is blue, you can still meet that. But if you don't, as in you charge a blue, red, blue, and red, you don't meet the requirements because all your energy is not red. Second one is the new Skill-less Unison, in which this one says, well, there's a couple questions here, but these are the ones that I thought were at least somewhat important. It's the Son Goku forever in our memories, and the permanent says your leader card is yellow, all your energy or all your battle cards and your opponent's battle cards or energy costs of 5 or less has their skills negated, and all of your battle cards or energy costs of 1 gain 5k power. So this one says if this card is in play, to do all of your opponent's battle cards with barrier and energy costs of 5 or less have their skills negated, and it's yes. So the thing about this is that permanents are only in effect, which we'll get into in a little bit, as soon as it hits the field, unless otherwise specified, as in like for Babidi, you know, it says reduce the cost in your hand by 1, or this gains whatever in all areas, you know, that type of thing. But otherwise specified, the permanent is in effect as soon as you play it. So the barrier is the permanent, and as soon as you play it, it gains barrier, but it doesn't have any other effects with this card on the play if it's 5 or less. Now, the cool thing about this, for instance, if you want to put this in a practical sense, is that if you have this card and both you and your opponent are playing 5 or less, they put down a 2-drop, but then on your turn, which had a barrier, like the 2-drop blue Goku has barrier, right? And this is on field, it no longer has barrier, it has no skills. You play the 6-drop, I believe it's a 6-drop Bardock that wipes up to a certain amount on their field. You can now wipe it because it no longer has barrier, it just negates the skills. And that's kind of the cool part of this card, or why this card is so cool, is because it is technically a skill drain. And then the other question is, if you have this card in play, the battle cards with energy cost of 5 or less being played with the Overrealm get sent to the owner's warp at the end of the turn. Now this is pretty important to consider a couple of things, as in if you have 5 or less, the autos that come in do not activate, but the permanents and the things like Overrealm do. Overrealm reads as you pay the cost in order to Overrealm, it goes to the end to warp at the end of the turn. It still checks because at the end of the turn, the game processes and says, okay, you met the Overrealm request. This is only on the field basically. And it goes at the end of the turn. And it says, yes, they are played battle cards and scales negated, but Overrealm was already activated and resolved before the card came into play. So it goes to the end at the end of the turn to the owner's warp. So two things big there. Again, Overrealm 5 or less, no matter what, goes to warp, even if this guy is on the field. and then autos are not activated because as soon as it goes into the field, its skills are negated. If I'm wrong on that, let me know, but at least back yourself up with some rulings. Third one here is the new Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and the top 4 that you look at. Frank went ahead and posted this a while back saying basically if you look at the top 4 and you add, can you add all 4 cards, can you keep them in the hand without putting them in energy or bottom decking them basically? And after looking at the top 4, can you keep some, blah 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 blah, right? So the card reads, if your leader card is a mono blue, when this card is played, look at the top 4 of your deck, add up to 4 mono blue cards among them, and then place in the any of the remaining mono blue cards in your energy, and place any other remaining cards at the end of the bottom deck, or at the end of the bottom, or at the bottom of your deck. I don't know why I keep reading both of these at the same time. Anyway, let's say you have, looking at the top 4, right? You have 2 counters, right? 2 mono blue counters, another mono blue battle card, and then a draw 8, which is yellow, right? The thing about it is that you can actually look at the top 4, pick those 2, which are mono blue, add them to your hand, pick one, that battle card, let's say, so it's, you know, whatever, you need that energy, you place in energy, and then any other remaining has to go to the bottom of your deck, which is going to be that draw ape, which is not meeting other requirements, which is mono blue, etc. So if you ever run into that, definitely remember that if you meet the requirements and you meet whatever you're doing here, you can obviously do it. If you want to charge everything and just gain 4 energy, that's always cool too. Now, for evolving and counterplay, so this guy says, ruling question, if you evolve, EX evolve, Xeno evolve, or place a card on top of a card in general, your opponent counters the counter plays and stops the play from happening. It doesn't matter if it's Trunks, but we use that as an example. Does the battle card that you're placing on top goes to the drop area or stays on the field? So I think he means the battle cards below it, but in this instance, let's say you have a Majin Blue Xeno energy cost of 5, I think there's only 1, and you EX evolve on top of it for 1 energy, and the opponent responds with a Super Saiyan Trunks God Sealing Technique. Same thing for the EX evolve for Gotenks, same thing for Vegeks, etc. Right? The thing to consider is that EX evolve, evolve, and Xeno evolve are all activate main keywords, and when you're using activate main, they're all skills, right? So when you're playing things with skills, that means you're actually playing stuff that has 2 counter windows. So the first counter window is saying, hey, I'm paying this energy, I'm revealing the card, I haven't played it. That's counter window 1. The second counter window is when they actually play, in which these autos go off. The autos don't go off before then, and that's basically the 2 counter windows. I can't really make that any more simple. And of course, it has the rest of the definition here. You can only play it from hand unless otherwise specified, which I think the only time, I don't think they really even have anything that does that. Maybe the old Trunks, but that's really about it. Anyway, so Super Saiyan Trunks over here, the God Sealing Technique, is the counterplay, and if you use the counterplay, the battle card being played is returned to the owner's hand basically it's returned to the owner's hand instead of being played. There's a couple other cards that can do that, and this is kind of all in between. So if you do it on counter window 1, basically the effects don't go off and it's returned to the hand. So they pay the energy, they reveal it, you use God Sealing Technique on counter window 1, it goes right back to hand. None of the effects, none of the other stuff go off. The cards below it stay, because nothing was ever played, nothing was ever done, right? And the counter window 2, the autos go off, right? So whatever this is, and then you get to KO or remove a marker and then KO something, right? Those things go off, they still pay the energy, etc. But this time, because it's a full-fledged card, it's actually being played in counter window 1 and it's being responded in counter window 2. It's then returned to the hand, and then the cards below it go to the drop, right? That's how I understand it. That's how basically all the rulings and basically how everything else is correlated as well. If I'm wrong, let me know, but at least back yourself up with some rulings as well. Now, that kind of brings me to Vegeks in a not really new, but kind of updated part for this. I'm sure Vegeks, and as well as this engine, is still going to be played going to set 11. Basically, the permanent says you can choose battle cards in your warp when choosing cards to use this card's union skill from your hand. Same thing for the, I think this is a promo or yeah, the promo, the TP promo, and then winner stamp. So your opponent activates counterplay God Stealing Technique and respond to the Union Still, causing you to return this card to the hand instead of playing it, right? Can you play the cards? Play what the heck? Can you play the and cards you sent to the warp with this card? Whatever, dude. All right. So basically, in Union Patora, you have to have the cards on the field in order to play the Union Patora card in your hand, right? So you pay the 3 energy and you use the cards from the warp, and they go onto the field, and then you play the card on top, or yeah, basically on top. But because the God Stealing Technique says no, you're only paying the cost, and they don't actually they're actually being played from the warp from there. So just to give you a heads up, because that's been popping up here and there, and it's kind of a legitimate question, but also not really. When you look at these things like permanents and like keywords like this, it's a good assumption to say like this is a cost, and this is something that you have to meet, and the requirements that you have to meet in order to do something. So in my opinion, this makes sense. Another one is the Unison Activate Battle. Josh brought up a good question earlier in the month, last month, in which can you use the Unison, the Jiren Unison, in which you have to activate battle and minus 25k for a battle card if you're not in battle with that card. Let's say you're not swinging at the Unison. The opponent has the Unison, right? The Jiren Unison. You have the leader card. You swing at it. They can't activate because it doesn't have a defensive step, right? All Unisons don't have a defensive step. But if you are swinging leader to leader or battle card to leader, their leader, and they have a Jiren Unison, they can activate the -3 to ignore barrier, and it gains negative 25k. You know, and that's pretty important because if you have 3 markers and you're swinging for game, you know, that's going to be pretty important. It also makes Jiren just a little bit better because you can use the activate main +1, swing with double strike, and then on their turn you have 4 markers and it doesn't die, right? So that's pretty important. Now, there's a couple of things to this. Is that Cardass or card whatever, the Bandai customer service for questions said yes, you can if it's not using a non-Unison card, if it's hacking a non-Unison card, and they plan to update the manual. I don't think they have, unless I missed it, but in the manual, something that I actually reference is which the turn player can activate battle skills on the leader card, battle cards, extra cards, and Unison cards, which means if, let's say, you're swinging with the leader, you can go ahead and use activate battle for the Jiren on your turn, but it doesn't have it updated for the other way around, as in the non-turn player. So hopefully this gets revised and it makes sense, because if you can use it on the turn player, it's not as in the leader card or whatever, then you should be able to use it on the non-turn player as well. Okay, so the other one, or next one, is going to be Servant and Koitsukai. So Servant is a permanent, is a keyword skill, which means, again, permanents, unless otherwise specified, are when it's actually being played and not on the card itself. And the other ruling is down here, we'll go into in a second. And it gains 10k power, can't be switched to active, whatever, right? Koitsukai says, you move this card from the drop area to the game, choose up to 2 cards, bottom deck, whatever, draw 2. But the important part is if your opponent plays a battle card with 20k power or less on your turn, which is kind of, these don't really do that other than Son Gohan, but these are just examples. They have to choose 2 cards and send them to the warp. So let's say you Koitsukai, your opponent plays the Son Gohan baby's minion as a counterattack with technically a skill, right? Just like Topo. And it has Servant. So the 15k in this hand is still 15k on the board until he plays it and it resolves after you play everything. Here's the thing, is that if your opponent plays a battle card with 20k power, it doesn't say the original power or anything. My current ruling for this is that Servant, as in this card right here, is not affected by that, because it doesn't say with 20k power in its hand, doesn't say original 20k power, etc. This in itself is not a 20k power battle card. It's only a 20k power battle card when it hits the field, which technically, you know, I don't think that processes. I don't think that works in itself. One ruling that I think Darwin put out is that continuous effects that rewrite the information on the card in specified areas are applied immediately as soon as they enter that area, as in Servant gives 10k as soon as it has or goes into the field, because it is a permanent. So that's my current understanding. I do believe that is the correct understanding. I don't believe there's anything else that you need to understand, because it's not original power, or when it comes to the field, it's just 20k power, which is good assumption to say that this is not affected. Same thing for these guys, but you don't really play it on there. It's just more examples. All right, so the last one here, since I don't want to make this too long, is unisons, and as well as losing markers. So everybody knows is that, you know, when you lose all the markers on a unison, it goes to drop. But for this is that removing markers from unison uses interruptive rule processing, and when one or more markers are removed from a unison card, if there are one or more markers on the remaining card, all continuous effects, including those that are modifying the card's power, are reverted. There's a couple things that I'm actually kind of curious about this, but one thing I know for sure that I learned the hard way in Daily Max tournament is that let's say if you have the Super Saiyan 2 Gotenks, and let's say you have 5 markers, you basically use let's say you use the Vegeks leader skill, in which you give it double strike, and then you minus it 4 to give it dual attack and 20k. The double strike loses or goes out, and the dual attack and 20k does stay. So that's one thing to kind of consider, in which you have to do this first and then give it double strike. Now the other two things that you have to watch out for, and there's another thing in which, let's say the opponent uses it's the Vegeta 2-drop card, I forget what it is, but let's say they use the activate battle in order to minus 1 marker from this. From that, well, I mean, if he has 5 and you minus 4, he's gonna die. But let's say if it had 6, it would lose a double strike, dual attack, and the 20k. So other than the combo power that it's putting out, it's only a 5k attacker now. So if you look at these two, this guy has double strike and 20k after it uses the +1. They go for a game, they combo everything. You have the energy open for the unison removal, and then if you only have 1 life, you only take that 1 life, because you made it lose the double strike from there. Now the other thing is that yes, you do lose the +5k for this, but it is a continuous effect, which I don't know if it's going to be continuous effect as in the card itself, or just continuous effects that have been gained, in which if you lose a marker, does it lose double strike and critical and the 5k, or just the 5k? So that's one thing that I'm throwing out there. If anybody else knows, I would like some clarification on that. But other than that, that is it. That wraps up this version, or this set's ruling type thing. I'm probably gonna make another one if there's more rulings. There's not too many, but as I went around and kind of took a look at everybody's questions, those are the ones that kind of popped out to me. I'll definitely make one for the Dropbox 6 if there's more. I mean, if there's like a good demand for it. I think there should be some rulings for that. But let me know what you think below. Subscribe if you are new, like, dislike, join the Discord, join the discussion. Let's keep this game going, and I'll see you in the next one.